Welcome to another episode of the Woman podcast, a place where female founders come for success, sisterhood, and the real conversations that we actually want to have. The podcast is dedicated to our community, an online space where together we are navigating life, business, and all the messiness in between. This isn't just another Women in Business podcast where all we talk about is strategy and scaling. This is the place where we connect with each other beyond the hustle, because before we were founders, CEOs, entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call yourself, we were women first. So here we share our personal stories, our journeys, and how real life has actually shaped us. If you want to know more about the community, stay tuned. I will let you know all about that later. And just a reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any episodes in the future. If you're watching or listening on a podcast platform like Spotify or Apple, just hit the follow button for the same reason. So on that note, I want to introduce you guys to my guest. Please welcome Richelle Isaacs.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I appreciate
thank
it.
you. We connected on Instagram just recently, so
yes,
we've not met in person before. So
no,
this is nice.
Yes, yeah. It's nice to actually get a nice connection going first.
Yeah,
and I just, for me, it's like I love anything that's about pushing women and advocating for ourselves as women.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, I need to see what this is about.
I love that. Also, the topic, like the field that you're in, is something that has come up for me a lot recently. So I'm really excited to get into this topic. So just for the audience, just tell us who you are and what you do.
So I am a registered nurse. I've been nursing for 13 years. I started off in intensive care, then moved into community nursing, and then my passion was women's health. So I moved into fertility nursing, and then I retrained due to reasons that we might talk about as a naturopathic nutritional therapist. And for me, it was about looking at how I could support myself through my own healing journey. And then I also trained as a health coach, which I volunteer for the NHS as well. So I kind of straddle a few different areas, mainly with the nutritional therapy. I mainly specialize in hormonal health, fertility, but also because of my background, I also specialize in neurodivergence and the conditions that come with autism and ADHD as well.
Okay. There's so much there, though.
Yes. And I'm trying to not overwhelm, but, it's about tackling things that are really important to me.
Yeah. I want to kind of delve into, your personal journey, because you said you kind of took a career, it's not a career change, but you kind of went into naturopathic for your own health reasons. What happened there?
I had been dealing for many, many years with crippling pain. I had 6 slip discs in my spine. I had chondromalacia patellis, and my kneecap would constantly come out. I had carpal tunnel, RSI, golfer's elbow. I mean, it was constant things. So, and no one really knew what to do with me. I'd go to physios and they'd all tell me I was definitely going to get better with them. And then I didn't. And it was really, really bad. And then at the same time, I was dealing with really bad IBS. I would end up a few times in hospital with really bad, and this is what I mean. I'm happy to kind of chat about anything, right? But it was everything was very compacted, right?
Okay.
So eventually I got a colonoscopy, but that was after many, many years of saying, I need help. And finally they found I had something called Barrett syndrome.
Okay.
So that's where the cells of your stomach and esophagus change shape.
Oh, wow.
And I was told, basically, they said, if you keep going with your lifestyle as you are, then you're going to get stomach cancer.
Wow.
And I said, okay, but what do I need to do? And they were like, oh, we don't know. And that was it.
That was a specialist, or that was a GP?
That was the consultant, gastroenterologist.
Wow.
So there's no connection between nutrition and health. Really in the NHS. There is dietitians, but that's a sort of different world. So I was left to kind of fend for myself. And that for me was no, I need to go and learn how to heal myself. I can't just be told this and then just accept my path and my fate. So I ended up learning online, and then I was no, I need to actually train in this. And that led me down the nutrition path. But then specifically where naturopathy comes in, it's about looking at the body giving you clues. So when I do a assessment on someone, I look at their nails, I look at the tongue, I look at the eyes, I look at what clues the body is telling me, because ultimately the body works holistically. You can't just go and just fix one thing and go, we're done. It all works together. So it's about looking at the root causes. So that's what kind of, I think my own my own health things is what led me down this path, really.
Yeah. I remember ages ago, I kept getting like UTIs. And it was years, like my whole 20s, I was basically like every other month had a UTI.
Awful.
And like no one, like the GP didn't really help and whatever. And I ended up going to an acupuncturist and like a Chinese herbalist. And they were like, let me see your tongue. And I remember thinking, wait, what? What's this got to do with like anything down there? So I always find that really interesting. Like, what can your tongue tell you?
Your tongue can tell you if there is inflammation. So there's geographical location. So you can, if you look at a certain area of the tongue, you can look to see where there may be some inflammation. You can look to see if there's nutrient deficiencies. You can see if there's digestive issues. I look to see if there's what we call scalloping or cracking down the tongue. It can tell you if there are emotional issues as well. So I look for certain things kind of in the middle of the tongue. So it can tell you a lot. It's very similar to reflexology. When you look at a foot, it can give you a map. It's very similar. So a lot of the time, the tongue will actually give me, you can't go fully on it, but it will give me a really good idea about where I need to focus.
Okay. And what were the other things you said? Your nails and
nails and eye as well, because our iris gives us an idea about what we call your constitution. So what you're more predisposed to. So someone, for example, with certain color eyes would be more predisposed to certain conditions, but we're also looking for markings in the eye as well. So there are certain markings that will give me an idea if someone has got a blood sugar imbalance, or if maybe they've got diabetes in the family, or if they've got conditions that are related to the lymphatic system. So maybe things like issues with their adenoids or their tonsils. So it can really give you a lot of information. Same with the nails as well. Because things, they're so active, they're showing you what is happening at that moment. So I can see with the nails if someone has digestive issues, if they're not absorbing their nutrients well. So it gives me a lot of information rather than just going straight to like a test, for example.
My nails are really weak.
Yeah. So it might be that you need to look at maybe protein intake or maybe some increased vitamin A intake.
Okay.
So there's definitely, and again, it's hard to just go on that one thing.
Yeah, of course.
But it's definitely, straight away I'd be thinking, okay, maybe we need to look at protein intake.
I don't eat enough protein.
There we go.
I can tell you that already.
There we go.
This is amazing. So then what happened after you were given that advice? I mean, it's not really advice, but after that happened, like, where did you go from there?
I literally just started going down the rabbit hole of reading online.
Oh, wow.
And I think for me, I've always been very much about, we've got to be our own advocate. We've got to stand up for ourselves. So like a few years ago, my back had also got really, really bad. And it was like crippling bad. And everyone was like, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. And then eventually I remember a physio was like, you need another MRI. And I'd been begging for this MRI again for years. Anyway, I went and they said to me, oh, you need urgent spinal surgery.
Wow.
They said your discs are now pressing on your spinal cord and you could become like paralyzed. I went to the NHS and they said to me, the only option is this surgery. You might not walk afterwards. You might also still have pain. And I said, there must be another option. They said, there's no other options for you. And I just thought, that can't be right in this day and age. So I went and I spoke to about 3 or 4 other consultants and they all gave me other options. And I ended up doing a amazing surgery that basically was laser. Changed my life. I'm basically now pain-free. I don't have digestive issues. I don't have pain. I feel like a new person. Like, honestly, if you could have seen me like a few years ago, I'm like a different person. So I think for me, it was about advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's the thing in business as well. Like, do what is right for you. Don't listen to the first thing you're told. Listen to yourself, listen to your gut, and get other opinions. Because there's not only just one option out there. Get as much information as you can. I think that's the key that I got from all of this. Do your own research. Get your own research.
Yeah.
Because there's always other options out there.
I think it's just like overwhelming, especially if you're going through something or if like your diagnosis is something really severe, for example, like cancer or actually I had a guest in season 1 who it took years for her to get endometriosis diagnosis.
It takes many, many years for women. I think the average is like 11 years for a diagnosis.
I think hers was like 13 or something. But again, there's no help for her. It's kind of just like pain management and deal with it.
There's definitely specialists out there. So, for example, with cancer, for example, I know that it's about being able to find them and access them. But there are specialist nutritional therapists. There are specialist naturopaths, one that deals specifically with endometriosis, one that deal with cancer. So they are out there. Research online. because it might not be that information has made its way to the NHS yet. Things take a little bit longer. It's never to badmouth the NHS. You know, I still work as a nurse, but it's just to know that there are options out there. Speak to support groups, because sometimes the support groups that you might find online, they might know about the nutritional therapist, for example, or they might know about the other options that are there. So there's definitely always people who may know what's going on.
Yeah, just talk about it basically.
Exactly. And I think the internet, I think it has a bad rep, but it's actually, there's a lot of benefits to it. There's so much more information now than there was before.
Yeah.
And I think we just need to target what we're looking for. Be careful that we're looking for people who are qualified. I think a lot of people, I think there's something like 70% of people get their health information from Instagram.
Yeah, I was literally about to say that. I'm scared of Instagram for like health advice.
We have to be mindful. It's like the news. Everything we read, we just have to take it on board, but be mindful that what we're reading might not be from a source that we can recognize, and that's okay. We just do our due diligence.
Yeah.
Always just do a little bit of research. Always just ask around.
Okay. When you say due diligence, like what, like if someone came to you, like, well, you mean you have like loads of qualifications, but how would they differentiate between someone who's trustworthy and someone who isn't?
I think firstly you can look to see that someone is qualified. Like I know on Instagram I've seen posts from people who aren't qualified. And it can be really confusing online because you're getting such conflicting advice. The nutrition world, the beauty world, it's really conflicting. So I think firstly, delve into the sources. Like my first degree was anatomy and human biology, and my thesis was in the misrepresentation of data. And a lot of the time, things are taken in a way that it shouldn't be. So, for example, if a source has spoken about an article, just have a look at the article yourself. It might be a bit overwhelming, but show it to someone else and just say, "What do you think about this?" Or just look at other sources. Just look at a few. Don't just take one source.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah. Have you seen Apple Cider Vinegar on Netflix?
Not on Netflix. What, like a show?
Yeah, it's a show.
No.
Maybe look it up. I watched it recently because everyone was hyping about it, but I'm not sure how I feel about it. So it's about this woman who fakes having cancer so that she can release this app, which is all about natural healing.
Oh my God.
But then another character in the show actually has cancer and is going through like a natural healing journey.
Okay.
I don't want to give you spoilers, but basically I wasn't sure after watching all the episodes if they were just trying to like scare people from looking at natural options. So I'd be interested to know, like, if you do watch.
Well, this is the other thing I would say as well. Netflix is we have to remember that things are funded by different organisations.
Exactly, yeah.
We have to be very mindful about where our information is coming from. I think this is always my thing, not to scare people, but just dig a little bit deeper. You know, don't take everything, because I think a lot of the time people just read it and they go, "Oh God," and it's very scaremongering. But actually, it's like, okay, I've been given this bit of information. Now I'm going to go and just have a look at the source, have a look a little bit about, and speak to someone who is trained. I'm always happy for questions. Someone messaged me, "What do you think about this?" Very happy to take questions, because at the end of the day, it is a bit of a minefield. So I always just say, everything you see, just take it with a little bit of pinch of salt and do a little bit of research yourself.
Yeah.
I need to watch that then.
I think watch it and let me know what you think.
Oh,
because it's based on a true story. This woman actually was convicted of because everyone was after a while they were like, she looks too well to have been going through cancer, the type of cancer that she was describing. So it's awful. Like there were points where I was just like, oh my God, this show can't be real. But
it's actually based on a
true, like a person.
Maybe she's trying to do something good. She was trying to do something for a positive.
No, I think it was, from what the show is like showing us, it's more that she just needed to fill that hole. Like she was abused, she wanted to feel loved, and like getting that admiration on Instagram was like that hole for her. That validation. Yeah, exactly. But then the other story within the series of the girl who actually has cancer is also really, really sad. So it's just like comparing the two, and there's just a lot.
I'll make sure I got my tissues ready, basically.
I don't know, you might get angry at it actually, I don't know. Okay, so what is the middle ground? Because obviously you still work for the NHS, but then you also have your own business. Is that right?
So I currently work for a private company.
Okay.
I left the NHS. I work for a private company, but we have NHS and private patients.
Okay.
Then I have my own clients I see as well. I don't like the word clients, but that's how I'm meant to call them. I say patients or people I help.
Yeah.
And then I volunteer for the NHS as well as a health coach. So I'm
Okay.
kind of straddling a few different areas. And I also work as a nutritional therapist also for a company called Maven, who it's like a perk that people get sometimes through their company. So people can get like nutritionists and they can get lactation specialists. So I
Yeah.
work for them as well. So kind of
Yeah,
different areas I work in.
So say I have pains or whatever, my first go-to is to go to my GP. But what is the middle ground between like getting my GP's advice and then also going through the natural route?
I think it's just to understand that when we think, for example, let's take pain. Pain can be referred from a different area of the body. So just because you are having knee pain, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's issues in the knee.
Okay.
So for example, when we talk about nutrition and naturopathy, everything is related to the gut health. And it's something that people have read about, but the gut really is where a lot of things, it's 90%, well, they're still deciding, but around 80 to 90% of our immunity is in the gut. It's also where a lot of our mood transmitters are made. It's the center of a lot of things in the body. Yeah. And so if our digestion is not working well, for example, it means that things are not going to be working as they should. So for example, I've had someone come through to me with osteoarthritis, and a lot of the time you're given medications that actually can make things worse because they can break down the cartilage in the knee and they can actually make things worse. But there's a lot to show about certain foods, things like purines, which if you limit them and if you reduce them, have a big impact in joint pain. And then you're not having to take medications that are potentially worsening things.
Yeah.
So I think, not to say there's anything wrong with the GP, because I've been there. I've been there where you're literally desperate. You're desperate for help. It's just understanding that there are other options. And I think, you know, nutrition, it is the oldest form of medicine. It's literally it's something that used to be used in hospitals. Like in hospitals, they used to have like a lot more nutrition, a lot more energy medicine. And we've moved away from that. And if you look at India, if you look at the kind of, you know, other worlds, there's a lot of focus on nutrition, things like Ayurveda, which is basically their form of naturopathy.
Yeah.
And I use parts of Ayurveda as well. So I think sometimes people look at it as something that's completely separate and it's something that's, we don't know much about it. But actually, there might not have been so much research in it, but that's because the funding might not have been there. And there's just so much knowledge from years and years and years and things that we can do ourselves with the gut to help so many conditions.
When you dug deeper into your personal like pain and all that stuff that was happening that you described at the beginning, what did you discover about that? Like, where was that coming from?
I had been through a lot of trauma.
Okay.
And every time I saw a practitioner, they'd say to me, "Are you okay? Like, have you been through anything?" They would always say that to me, but I think I wasn't at a place that I was ready to accept. Because when someone tells you it's in your head, the pain is in your head, which is basically what I was being told, that got my back up. Because then I was like, it's not in my head. The pain is real. And the pain was there. I had a lot of conditions, but I'm very aware of the fact that the trauma and things that I've gone through in the past, emotional turmoil, they definitely have had an impact as well. So I think being aware of that, I think when I started, I've always done yoga.
Okay.
Since I was 21, I've always practiced yoga, but it was more of like, a thing that I'd always go to, more because I wanted to hang out with my friend, you know. But when I started realizing, no, I need yoga. Yoga is part of my medicine. That's how I started seeing it. I was like, nutrition is my medicine. Because I didn't want to be on pain relief the rest of my life. I was like, no, I need to be on this. So nutrition became my medicine. My yoga became my medicine. And when I started getting in touch with not just the gut, but that gut-brain connection with yoga and being able to calm myself, I think it had a big impact in how I was healing from trauma as well.
It's so funny because I've started to get back into yoga recently, only like a month and a half ago. And I texted one of my friends like 2 weeks in and I was like, yoga really will tell you about yourself.
100%.
Yeah.
Because you've got that time. Especially for me, I love yin yoga. A lot of people think, I can't do yoga.
Yin yoga.
Oh my God. Especially if you've got pain, because you're holding the positions. You're not moving around. Yeah. You're just holding the positions, but you've also got that time with your mind.
Yeah.
It's giving you, you're learning a lot about yourself. You know, it's like, oh, I didn't really want to be thinking about this, but it's coming up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Hey ladies, quick pause. I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. As mentioned earlier, if you want to be part of our community and be the first to know when we launch, connect with us on Instagram or join the email list. Both links are in the description. We're going to have monthly guest speakers, live check-ins, accountability group, and even some in-person meetups happening throughout the year. And I personally can't wait. I know this business journey can feel lonely at times, but you don't have to do it alone. Connect with us and join the movement. Now, let's get back to the episode. When you say trauma, like what exactly was it that you were dealing with? I'm wondering whether like people can relate to that. Is there something that you would say to people, you always need to go back and look at trauma if you're dealing with like pain issues?
100%.
Okay.
I mean, I was in therapy. I've done therapy numerous times, and it was only, if I look at, it all happened around the same time. Like I started working on my gut at the same time I really got into yoga, at the same time that I got into really, really working in therapy. So it's hard to say exactly what thing worked, but the therapy that I was so profound that I think you have to, we're all connected. You can't just work on one thing, right? If there has been trauma there, it comes out in the body, even if you think it's not. So I think if you have had some form of trauma, you have to look at that. I mean, I had been through really bad stuff. Like I'd been in a court case when I was very young. My mum's boyfriend had pornographic photos and videos of me from when I was a child, and it was really bad. And I had to go to court, and my mum wasn't happy that I'd taken it to court. It was like a lot of issues with the dynamics of the family, but also going to court. And I always say that day in court was, my mum passed away, but that day in court was like was the worst day, because I remember they said to me, you can either go to court and see him face to face, or you can be separate from him. And I couldn't bear to look at him. And I regret that. You should never have regrets.
Yes.
Never have regrets, because everything you learn from, right? But if I had gone, he probably would have gone to prison. He didn't end up going to prison.
Oh, wow.
That taught me a big lesson, because it taught me advocate for yourself, like stand up for yourself. Yes, it might be scary, but you've got to look something in the eye. Don't shy away from it, because you are going to get so much more when you face it front on. So that...
How old were you at this point?
I was 18.
Wow. I mean, that's something really difficult.
Yes. And it went on for many years, because after the court case, he wanted to get money from me. It was like an ongoing thing. So this was ongoing from 18 really till about 24. They're big years. And especially if it's so obvious now if I look back, that's when my disc slipped. And I remember the hospital were like, did anything happen to cause your disc to slip? Because I woke up one day and just couldn't walk.
Just all of a sudden?
Literally woke up. I was like this. I couldn't even lift my head off the pillow. And I was like, well, I was a dancer. I danced a lot, but I was like, nothing had happened at that moment. But I've been going through trauma. So we have to target it. It's so crucial, as well as, it all ties in together.
Yeah. And then what happened with your journey? Like, what made you then pivot into IVF and fertility?
I think for me, I'm really passionate about women supporting themselves and advocating themselves. And obviously fertility it's a joint thing, right? It's women and men together. But so many women put the blame on themselves.
Oh my God, yeah.
And it's like, no. There's, obviously it's different if we're talking about egg freezing, that sort of thing. But a lot of the time, if we're talking about just general, well, even still, so many women put so much pressure on themselves. And I'm really passionate about going, no, we have to stand up for ourselves. And I don't believe anything should be taboo. And I think that's what kind of led me down the women's health path, because I think it's really important that we talk about these topics that no one really talks about and are seen as like a bit scary. And it's like, no, we have to talk about it, and we have to really put it at the forefront,
Yeah.
So that's what has always been a passion of mine with women's health.
Yeah, I love this as well, because obviously I have a women in business space, but I was like, there's so much more to us than just our businesses, our brands or whatever. And even episode 1 was about miscarriage. And my guest was basically telling me that after the miscarriage, she felt like her body had failed her. And there was just so much guilt there. And she thought that she didn't really know the process, like when you have a miscarriage, like what happens, what your body goes through. And so she felt like she went through that from a space of having no like information. And it was like a real shock to her and her system. So I'm like such an advocate for us just having these conversations, like talk about anything and everything, because there's community there.
I think with miscarriage in particular, you know, I think some companies are starting to get on board, but there's no protocol, and people, you know, they don't see it. And obviously things are changing in the law, but people, it should be seen as any other loss. And people don't know what to say to friends. I know that when my mum passed, a lot of people moved away from talking to me. I kind of not lost friends, but people didn't know what to say. And when people don't know what to say, they just don't speak to you. And it's like, just be there. Be there for someone who is going through a loss, because you just being there makes a big difference. But I think with miscarriage, I think a lot of people, they really suffer alone. And the lack of information, there is, I think, because everyone goes through miscarriage so differently, it really does depend on your specific symptoms. And so there is no one specific path. It's kind of dependent on what is happening to you, that it makes it a bit confusing. And the lack of kind of emotional support at that time is very difficult.
I'm approaching 40. I have no children. And I've always had this thing at the back of my mind where I'm like, I don't know, like, what's going to happen, because I still don't even feel ready to have kids either.
Join the club. Join the club. I'm in fertility and I still am like, oh.
And this is something that came up in my past relationship, because he was like, when are we having kids? This was when I was like 38. And I was like, I don't know, I still don't feel ready. But then there's so much that goes through your mind, because you're like, if I wait too long, am I going to run out of time? Like, how do I deal with this? I don't really know where to get information. I know there's some brands that, you know, they do like testing and stuff, but I just feel like there's a lot of women approaching 40 or even already in their 40s that are in this boat. So I don't know if you have like any advice for us. Are we risking like just leaving it? Like, what is your advice with it?
If you go to a fertility clinic and you speak to them about the statistics, they will say that ideally egg freezing should be done before 35. That's not to say that if you do it later, it's not going to work. It can work. It's just, it's reduced chances, right?
I wish that someone had this conversation with me earlier on.
I don't sugarcoat things. When people come and ask me, you know, I've had people who are kind of 42, 43 who are like, I'm going to freeze my eggs. And I say to them, I wouldn't. You know, you can find the statistics online. If you go to the HFEA, the Human Fertilization Embryology Authority, you can find these statistics that talk about this. I think we have to be careful not to sugarcoat things, and not, because it's a lot of money. But at the same time, if you feel like it's going to give you some form of safety net, then if you feel like emotionally it's going to be the right thing for you, then you got to go for it.
But it's also not like a guarantee. Like, even if, let's say I froze my eggs when I was 34 and now I'm approaching 40, I want to have a baby, there's no guarantee that those eggs are still going to be fine.
There's no guarantee. It really depends with the frozen eggs. Firstly, how they're frozen. So there's two different types. There's like a fast, what we call fast vitrification, and slow vitrification. I mean, most clinics now should be doing the fast approach. So we know that they're frozen straight away. So we know that they're going to preserve, like peas. When you freeze peas, they need to be frozen straight away, right? That's how we look at it. But you don't know how they're frozen. When you're younger, it does increase the chance of them surviving when they are when they're thawed. But again, like you said, there's no guarantees in life. There's no guarantees with fertility at all. And that's what we always have to bear in mind. You have an increased chance at certain ages, but nothing's guaranteed.
So, I mean, I feel I've already told myself that I'm too late for egg freezing.
I would say you speak to the clinic, and because also it really depends on, I would have a scan. Have a scan. Have a look at how many eggs you've got as well. Because it's not to say that freezing your eggs is not going to work. You've just got to be prepared that it may not work. But that's, like we said, that's the same with if you're 34 to the same if you're 40, right? It's not to say that it's not. And I think if it's going to give you that emotional security, there's no harm in doing it. But when you go to a clinic, they will advise more towards embryo freezing than egg freezing.
What is the difference?
Embryo freezing is basically where we do an egg collection or an extraction. And we have to fertilize them with sperm that day. Now,
Oh,
that
wow.
means having sperm, so whether donor available. But
yeah, but that's the thing is like, I'm single now. So my thing is, well, I don't have a partner to even contemplate that.
this is why they would suggest about using donor sperm and using something from a bank, because the success rate is higher. And even though it's a lot to go through emotionally, right? To go through that whole process of finding a donor from a bank, that's a lot. But that is often what a clinic will suggest to you, because the statistics are higher when you freeze an embryo as opposed to an egg. Because when you freeze an embryo, it's already been fused together. The eggs and sperm, they're already formed. So it means that in the future, if you use them, all you've got to do is unthaw that. Whereas if you're freezing an egg, you have to unthaw it or thaw it. You have to then fertilize it. You then have to freeze some of them again. It has to go through a lot more processes. And so it's reducing the chances.
But then, I don't know if I'm understanding it, but that means the person that has donated that sperm, that is the biological father, no?
They, at 18 years old, it means that the child can get in touch with the father.
Okay, so that means like if I find a new partner, or when I find a new partner, change my language.
That's it.
Then it wouldn't be a child with them.
No.
Yeah, that's
I know.
a lot.
It's a lot to consider.
Too much to
It's
think
a lot
about.
to consider. Honestly,
Yeah.
like even I'm in fertility and I'm still like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't think there's no right and wrong answer. It's really, really hard to navigate. And I think some people, they just know. Some people just think, oh, I'm just going to get on with it. But
Yeah.
I think sometimes some of us, we like to consider things, right? And it's not an easy decision. So I would say more information is better. There's no harm in getting a scan and having a look. Because I think sometimes when you're put into a situation, it helps you to decide, right? So I recently was going to go through embryo freezing with my husband. It turns out it can't happen because I've got also a blood condition, which has basically made it very difficult. So it can't happen. But being in the process really was a bit of a kind of an eye-opener, just to be like, do I actually want this? Do I really want to put myself through this for the whatever statistics it was, you know? So I think sometimes even just having the scan and just going, okay, I can see how many eggs I've got, you know, is that going to push me into doing it or not? Because the statistics are just one thing, right? The emotional part is something that you can't give a statistic for that.
Yeah. In terms of like, because I spoke to a friend who's also late 30s, and she went through a time kind of like me where she was like, well, I don't yet feel ready, but I know I want to have kids, etc., etc. But so she started researching. Her husband's also a doctor, and they're very much about natural, like nutrition healing, basically. And she said, I know I'll be fine. I think I'm going to have a kid when I'm like 40, 41. And I'm preparing my body now. So she was like, I know all about like nutrition for fertility, and I'm doing the work. So I was like, what is nutrition for fertility? Like, how do you prepare your body for something like that?
What we say normally is that at least 3 months before you're trying to get pregnant, people need to be working on their nutrition or supporting themselves, because the eggs take 3 months to mature, the sperm takes 75 days to mature. So you need to be putting in those things before, right?
Okay.
But there's actually things to say that even a year before, you should be clearing the body and getting it prepared. And nutrition for fertility, there's so much, but basically, firstly, making sure that your gut is good. You know, are you constipated? Are you, things like this? Are you having really loose stools? Because if things are not working as they should, we should be going once a day, if not twice a day, but they should be normal. If things like that aren't working in the gut properly, it will have a knock-on effect to how your body is working. The thing with fertility is it is the last thing that the body prioritizes. The body prioritizes the things that it needs. It needs energy, right? So if you're doing a lot of exercise, it is going to provide the energy for that exercise. So we need to be careful when we're over-exercising, right?
Okay.
Because we need to have that fuel also available for fertility. So the gut is one thing. But there's also things like, for example, we call them like xenoestrogens. So these are things in the environment that are known to mimic estrogen, and they can have a knock-on effect on our fertility. So, for example, looking at maybe what products you're using. Are you using certain moisturizers that are really full of certain additives? You know, you can use like an app called Yuka where you can have a look and see, okay, does that have lots of additives in it? Because these sort of things, they have a knock-on effect on our body. Our body then has to break it through and detoxify it.
Yeah.
So it's just being mindful that there are these other things that can be looked at, making sure you're getting a good protein intake, like we talked about. But that's really key because protein is the building block of your enzymes, of your hormones. So you need to know that you're getting all of that into the system. So there's numerous things that can be looked at with any health condition, but especially with fertility. So that's good that she was doing that.
Yeah, she's super on it now.
Because I've known people, you know, people can get pregnant late into their, I mean, we've had 45-year-olds in the clinic.
Yeah, I had a read through when I was in like a panic stage. And there were quite a few like stories of women getting pregnant in their 40s.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think this is why I say to people, just get a scan. Because if you go for the scan and it's showing that maybe you've got a slightly lower egg count, it might just be the boost that you need to go, do you know what? I'm gonna freeze my eggs. Yes, I'm 40, but at least I know that I'm doing something. I think with anything, putting action in, right? It's like business. Putting action in is the key because you can go, I'm taking power over this. And I think sometimes that is really key, and that emotionally has a big knock-on effect as well. So I would say, yes, people can get pregnant 100% into their 40s, but I think just getting the information, go for a scan and just have a look and see what's going on.
Yeah, I think it's just really scary when you, like, there's a lot of podcasts that I've seen that talk about women having kids late or leaving it late or whatever. I also love that people say leaving it late as if I've purposely not chosen a husband.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of information out there that I think is like scaremongering. And there's also this stigma of like women past the age of 40 are kind of like past their sell-by date. And so I think there's a lot of pressure on us to make a decision or like to know where we are with that. And yeah, it's such
I think there's
one.
pressure on women, full stop.
Yeah, 100%.
There's pressure on women if you have kids too young. There's pressure on women if you have kids too old. Everything you do in life is going to have a reaction from someone. And I think it's just about going, what is right for me?
Yeah.
What is right for me? And often we don't even know that. So it's enough, it's hard enough getting that from other sources as well. But I agree with you, it's very scary getting all the information. So I think the more information you have in yourself, the better. Because at least then you're not just reading what's out there. You're actually looking at what's going on with you. And even things like being as healthy as you can, you know then that you are putting yourself in a good place for when it happens.
Yeah.
When. We say when.
Yeah. I know you mentioned that you've always done yoga and that you did therapy. You went through all these things to heal your body, right? But now that you're better, what are like the must-haves in your life, like your habits that are just must-haves?
For me, Shakti mat. Don't know if you...
is that the one that has like the pins?
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like self-acupuncture. Acupuncture is, for me, a fantastic tool. There's not loads of studies on it, but there are studies on it. And there's a lot of evidence in support of fertility, but also in support of pain. And for me, 20 minutes naked on my Shakti mat at night is a game changer for pain. It's also 20 minutes where you cannot be on your phone, you cannot be distracted. You are literally lying there. And I do some really, for me, deep breathing and meditation is an absolute, there's no doubt I'm doing it once a day. Generally at the end of the day, while I'm going to sleep, if I can, I try and do 5 minutes at the beginning of the day as well to really get my day sorted correctly. And I think for me, making sure my gut is okay. And, you know, sometimes we come off the wagon, right? No one is perfect. Like sometimes I'll be out and I'll forget to be on top of my gut, and I will notice it straight away. I'll notice that my pain will get worse. Or as you can see, I start to cough. But generally, you know, for me, it's about making sure that I'm doing those things that I know are really crucial for me, because I don't want to be in a situation where I'm dealing with that pain again. And I think when you've been through that, you just go, okay, what are the things that I know I've seen the biggest impact with? And the Shakti mat for me is like, I notice it straight away. So yeah, they're my keys.
I think I saw one of those in like Aldi or something.
I got mine for a tenner.
No.
Yeah, there's like the official one, which is like £100. I was like, no. I'll try it. They look the same.
Yeah.
It's works just as good.
How long does it take you to build up to 20 minutes?
I did it straight away, but maybe that's because my pain was bad, because someone I
Yeah.
lent it to, well, a friend I recommended it to, and he was like, whoa, this is tough.
Yeah.
Personally, maybe because my pain was bad, I was straight away, I was like, I could lie here all day.
Wow.
But a lot of people, they do 5 minutes.
And then build up.
Build up. Because it is quite intense.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It is, it's pinpoints through the back, but I have a nice little neck one as well. So if you've got tension in the neck, because tension in the neck has a knock-on effect as well. So if you've got neck pain, or if you've got like a misalignment, it affects what we call the vagus nerve, and that can have a knock-on effect with IBS, with digestion issues. The vagus nerve goes all the way through the body. So if you're having neck pain, or if you've got some sort of issue with your neck or your shoulders, that could be having a knock-on effect. So we always, in naturopathy, we always look at what we call the triad. We look to see if there are issues with alignment and the gut, and we look at all the things together.
Yeah, because I went through a period where I had really bad pain in my shoulder, and my mum's going through it as well.
I wonder if, you always have to think with pain. Firstly, is it referring from somewhere else? And looking at to see, firstly, are there other symptoms going on? But also we look at the chronology. So for example, if there are other symptoms going on, which one started first? Because that will often give me an idea as to which one I need to be looking at as the root cause. Because often people come through, for example, with my hay fever's really bad, or different things. And then I'll say to them, okay, and I'll wind back and we'll look at what's happened. And it might have been that a few years prior, something happened, there was a trauma, and at the same time, they found that there was issues in their liver blood test. That will give me an indication. Okay, we need to work on the liver, for example. So don't ever just look at the thing that's coming up. Think, okay, what else could the body be telling me that's going on?
Just a quick reminder, guys, while you're here, if you have a podcast or a podcast idea brewing in that little brain of yours, I would love to support you. I currently have a mini course that helps you tackle the top 3 things that I hear that stops people from launching their podcast. I've also got other resources to help you launch or grow with ease. No more stressing over editing or strategy. I've got you. Just connect with me on Instagram and let's chat about how we can bring your podcast to life. It is time to stop procrastinating on this one. Okay, let's get back to the episode. So is that how you work with people when they come to you? You kind of like quiz them on what's been happening with them?
I do an hour consultation. It generally runs over as well, but I do like a tongue, nail assessment, eye assessment, and then I go through medical history. I go through diet. I look at nutritional plan. I look at supplements they might have been taking. Have they spoken to other professionals before? Go through health goals. Like, what is it we're trying to aim for? And then after all of that, I make a plan. And it could be that we're just working on nutrition, could be that we're looking at specific supplements, or it could be sometimes that I think testing could be recommended as well. People come through with blood results, and I always go through all of these, because the other thing with naturopathy, when you get blood tests from the doctors, often what they're looking for is they're looking for a level that keeps you alive, right? So they're looking for a vitamin D level that keeps you alive. I'm looking for the vitamin D level that is going to keep you thriving and well, right? Because we are living longer, but not better.
Yeah.
We want to be living our best, right? We want to be living as optimally as we can. So I go through blood results and I look at to see what needs to be optimized. What other tests do I need to look at? If someone's come through with one thyroid test, I often will say we need to look at the whole thyroid panel. So it's about digging deeper, because a lot of the time, certain ones have been done, but there's actually more that can be looked at.
Yeah, because earlier you were talking about like your gut. I think generally my gut health is good, and like I have no issues like going to the toilet or anything like that. But I'll notice in my cycle, when there's like a certain point in my cycle, then my like frequency, I'll either be constipated or it'll be just the runs.
That's normal. And that's generally related. Like, for example, progesterone constipates you. So people do tend to find that they find these changes in their digestive symptom as they go through. But I'll give an example. I had a patient come through to me the other day, and she has had recurrent thrush and recurrent UTIs. And she said to me, my digestive symptoms are fine. And I think a lot of the time, I did quiz. I quizzed down, because I think a lot of the time we think, we think our digestive, no one talks about poo, right? No one talks about it.
This is funny, because my dad had to send a stool sample because he was having like kidney tests and stuff. And I was like, this is gross. So I think you're right. Like, I think people just don't want to talk about
People
that.
don't want to talk about it. So to what someone might think, oh, it's all normal.
Yeah.
My thing is, it's not taboo, it's just poo, right?
So what is normal?
What is normal is it should be what we call the Bristol stool chart, okay? We have like a
Okay, yeah.
charting. It should be
Yeah,
type
yeah,
4
yeah.
to 5,
Okay.
which is basically normal colour.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be too dry. It shouldn't be pellets coming out. It should be like a normal size.
Yeah.
I hope this is nice for everyone
Yeah,
listening.
whatever.
Like, that's why I said I'll talk about anything. And it should be at least once a day, but really once or twice a day, 3 times is also fine.
Okay.
But as long as it's a normal consistency, you shouldn't be straining. There shouldn't be blood. There shouldn't be
Yeah.
mucus.
Yeah,
There's numerous things we look at. But I had someone come through to me, recurrent thrush, recurrent UTIs, and she was like, everything's fine with my gut. I quizzed a little bit. Okay, fine. We did what's called a vaginal microbiome test. So that's doing a swab to look at the bacteria in the vagina. And when you go to the doctor, they will often just look for bad things, what we call pathogens, right?
Yeah.
But what I will do is look to see what the balance is of good and bad bacteria. And what it showed me is that there was quite a few different types of candida, quite a few different types of thrush. This is very likely mean it's coming. There's links to the gut.
Wow,
And I said, even though you have no digestive symptoms, it's likely it's in the gut as well. And when I said that to her, she said, well, okay, maybe I do get a bit of bloating. I think people don't want to talk about digestion. It's a real taboo thing.
Yeah.
And it's like what we said before. It's like, just get it out there, because the more information you've got, the better. Nothing should be off the table. And it tells us so much about what's going on. It's always the first thing that I clear up. If someone has any sort of thing going on with their stool or digestive, it needs to be cleared up first, because it's going to have a knock-on effect.
Yeah, I do get bloating sometimes as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, we shouldn't be. I mean, obviously, there are certain foods that
Yeah.
can bloat us, and
Yeah.
we're more susceptible to, some of us. But it's about looking at, when is that bloating happening? How soon after eating is it happening? Is it in conjunction with other foods? So I look at all of these things together.
Yeah.
Are we drinking at the wrong times? Sometimes how we drink can have a knock-on effect on our digestion, things that people don't even think about. So there's a lot that can be looked at to support the health.
Are there any supplements that you would recommend everyone be taking, or is it just dependent on the person?
Depending on the person
Yeah.
and what you're trying to get out. And the thing with supplements is there should be no, because it always should be based on medical history. That's the thing. So that's why it's always you always have to be careful that you are looking at someone's medical history. What is right for one person is not right for another. It should be individualized. Obviously, there are certain things that a lot of people need, right? So, for example, a lot of people need vitamin D supplementation in the winter. That's actually recommended by the NHS because we're not getting enough. Though some people will also need it in the summer as well, for example. But, people say, oh, I need magnesium. I've read this online. But there's loads of different types of magnesium. And actually, some magnesiums can actually make things worse if you've got cardiovascular issues. So you should never just take things that you read online. You should always check before you take anything. Because things like, for example, St. John's wort, it's a supplement that some people take to make them feel calm. St. John's wort has a lot of knock-on effects with a lot of other medications and supplements. So I'm really careful to recommend it. So I would say it really just depends, to be honest with you, on the person.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to go back to the IVF and fertility health just to ask you, what are most women coming to you for at the moment?
I would say the majority of people are coming through to me who have had miscarriages, or if they've got conditions like endometriosis and polycystic ovaries, because a lot of these sort of hormonal issues where a lot can be done in the diet. And often, like, I've got polycystic ovaries, and no one ever told me what I could do to support myself at all. I was told, you're basically going to be infertile. That's what I was told when I was about 17. My cyst burst. When I was at uni, I was in extreme pain. They said, oh, you're probably going to be infertile. That was it. And I just normalized that. And now I'm completely, I'm off contraception. I was only getting 3 periods a year. Now I get regular periods. I don't even feel any pain. I manage it so well with my lifestyle that I don't even know they're coming. And that's the thing. There is a lot that can be done, and especially things like endometriosis and polycystic ovaries. There is a lot that can be done where people think, oh, the pain, that's just how it is. No, the pain, you don't have to necessarily cope with the pain. There is a lot that can be done. And also with miscarriages, I think a lot of the time, like we said before, the lack of support about what can be done, there is a lot of links between the gut and miscarriage. So I do stool tests on quite a few of my miscarriage clients. Also, there's a lot of links with kind of genetic changes in certain people that means they break down certain vitamins. So there's a lot that can be done that maybe certain people in these sort of areas they don't realize can be targeted. And it's the same with like neurodivergence. A lot of people think that they just have to suffer with their symptoms, or they think the only option is a medication. And I know a lot of people who are on the medication, some it works for them, but some they say, oh, it does not work for me. And it's to be aware that actually diet and gut health can have a real big impact in regulating your mood and your impulsiveness. It can actually really have a good impact with that as well.
Because you do talk about hormonal health a lot as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
The hormones are key to everything that we do.
How do you get tested for that though? Because they don't do that. If you go to the GP and ask for that, they're not going to do anything.
So it really depends on what someone is coming through to me with.
Yeah.
But I do sometimes do a Dutch hormone profile test.
What is that?
So this is where, so for example, let's say someone is having irregular periods. So we don't know if they're ovulating. They would go to the GP and they would have a day 21 progesterone blood test, generally, and maybe also a day 2 estrogen and LH hormone test. That only gives a snapshot at those two areas, but actually the Dutch hormone test can give you firstly, there's different types of the Dutch test, but it can give you an idea of hormones throughout the entire cycle, so you can really see what's going on. It can also tell you how your body is breaking down the hormones. So it looks in how the liver is breaking them down. So I can then put in specific support for the liver and different parts of the cycle of how we detoxify. It also looks at how the stress hormones impact on the sex hormones as well. Gives me a lot more information than what someone gets from just that blood test on day 21. So there are tests that can be done to look at your hormonal health.
Yeah.
And see if it's having, is it having a knock-on effect on some of the symptoms that you're having? Acne, things like this that often have a hormonal link.
I was going to say, because your skin is amazing.
I worked on it.
Yeah.
I work on it.
I have a huge spot right now.
I work on it, but it can be done. And, I've had people come through with severe eczema, severe rosacea, and it's cleared up because the gut has such an impact. And I think, honestly, I'm like grateful that I've learned about it because it's changed my life, to be honest with you.
Yeah. You can tell that you're so passionate about it as well.
I'm so passionate about it. I mean, it changed my life. And the fact that I'm able to then help other people, it's the best. I love it.
Yeah. So how do you work with neurodivergence?
I have children coming through to me and adults. And so it really depends. But often I'll do something like a hair mineral test. Okay. So I send off the hair for analysis. And that can give me a look at the last 3 months. Because often with neurodivergence and ADHD, there is a mineral imbalance. So you can find that, for example, things like zinc and copper, maybe they're not in balance with each other. Maybe magnesium's a little bit low. And that test, it's a really reasonable test. And that gives me a lot of information. And from there, I will then tailor sometimes I do that, sometimes I don't. But there are specific nutrients, things like magnesium, really focusing on that. And also gut health and making sure that gut is working. Because that's where the serotonin, that's where the dopamine, that's where everything... Not everything, but that's where a lot of them are made. So we need to make sure that the gut is working well. So it might be that I'm putting in a specific beneficial bacteria or probiotic. It might be that I need to put in something like digestive enzymes. So these are what break down the food so that the food is making its way properly. It's not just sitting there, so that we're able to absorb all the nutrients that we need. Because you need those nutrients for the body to work as it should. So it depends on what the person comes through to me with, and what I see in their nails and everything, what I decide to do.
Okay. How do you feel about the Love on the Spectrum?
Oh my God, I love that show. I cry every episode. Every episode I cry.
I cried at, what was it? I've just finished it and there was a point where the song. Have you seen all of it?
Yeah. Literally, okay. I binged it. I think that's the only thing I really watch on Netflix is Love on the Spectrum.
Yeah. I can't remember her name. Is it Abby that she went on safari and then she sang that song? Oh my God, I was bawling my eyes out.
Oh my God. So I basically, a few years ago, I started my process of getting diagnosed with neurodivergence. And the doctor was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that you've got it. Okay. And I was like, yeah, me too. But at the time, it was like a really long process. So I'm still going through it now, but I've actually got an appointment next week. So I'm still pushing through with it now because they're pretty confident, but it just takes a long time to do it. But I'm really passionate about it. Like my family are autistic.
Okay.
My husband's family are, likely potentially as well. So like in the process of getting diagnosed. So I'm really passionate about helping people because I've masked my whole life. And I think once I realized what masking was and being passionate about me and putting me forward, I think it was a game changer in my life. And just saying, no, I'm going to be me. I'm not going to hide this anymore. I'm going to do what's right for me.
Yeah.
And it's like the thing with business. A lot of people have an idea of what you should do. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. It's like, no. You've got to do what's right for you.
Yeah.
So I think, going really supporting people with neurodivergence, I'm really passionate about it because I think it's something that, there was an article the other day that someone sent me that said autism is a scam.
Oh, what?
Yeah. And, but it was, again, when I looked into it, it was written by a beauty editor who had absolutely no background or knowledge in autism. And if you look at the data, it's very well documented.
Yeah.
So this is what we were saying before about people just spamming the internet with stuff,
Yeah.
Always look at who's writing it.
Yeah. I do like that, because I wasn't really sure if I wanted to watch it because I felt like it was something that was overhyped. And I was like, I'm not sure, like, how are these people going to be represented? Like, is it going to be something like, that we're laughing at people? I'm not comfortable with that. But then I feel like it's quite wholesome. Like, it's quite informative and like, I feel like you can see the growth in them as well, especially from like season 1, the ones that carry on all the way through. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I think someone else said to me, they were like, I don't want to watch it. I feel like it's taking the mockery of them.
Yeah.
And I said, I see it completely differently.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, firstly, it shows the growth, but also it shows that I think people sometimes see, when I've told people that I'm in the process and the doctors basically said that I'm autistic, people are like, well, no, you can't be, or like, or someone else said to me, they went, oh, that explains your behavior.
Oh, what?
And I was like, I think a lot of people like to put people in boxes.
Yeah.
It helps them to understand people. But I think the show is really good at showing they're just people like anyone else. They are individuals like anyone else, just experiencing the world in a slightly different way and in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I started to look at it myself. I remember someone told me a few years ago, she said, and I've had this a few times, very empathetic person. I'm an empathic sensitive, and people have often told me you're too sensitive. And that used to really upset me. And now I'm like, that's my superpower.
Yeah, I
because,
get that too.
Yes.
I'm too emotional as well.
Right. But we are people that can tap into ourselves and we can tap into ourselves and tap into other people. And I think that is a beautiful trait. And yes, it means we'll cry more
all the time. Yeah.
All the time. But I think there's nothing wrong with that because it just shows we're in touch with our emotions. So I see it as a beautiful thing now.
Oh, that's good. I'm getting to that point as well because I spent a long time just like feeling really paranoid that like I'm gonna get emotional like at work or in situations where I shouldn't get emotional.
Same.
And yeah, it's
I used to walk out of work crying, and yes, okay, maybe intensive care was too intense for me, but like not even just then. I'd be at parties and I'd have to leave because I was crying, and I've been more open about that with people now because at the time, especially in your 20s, you feel like you can't tell anyone that. I'm leaving a party because I'm crying.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I'll tell people. I'll be like, I'm feeling emotional. I'm going home.
Oh, bless you. I love that.
Yeah, because I think we have to be completely honest about how we're feeling. If it doesn't feel right for me, I'm off. That's it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I need to take more of that.
Oh, listen, I'm not perfect all the time. do you know what I mean? There's going to be times where it's easier and harder.
Yeah, of course.
But I think I always, think, give yourself I remember my therapist said to me, give the advice to yourself that you'd give to your best friend.
Yeah.
And I think that's really good advice because we are all so hard on ourselves. We're not going to get it right all the time.
Yeah.
But we've just got to be kind.
Yeah. Also, the other thing, sorry to go back to the program, is that they make dating so simple. It's like, what are you looking for in a guy? Someone who makes me feel like a princess. Done.
Oh, I know. I thought the exact same thing.
Whereas we're here with our lists and like all these expectations, and one of the guys was like someone kind and someone who's into like fantasy shows or whatever, and I'm like, wow, I need to like take tips from these guys.
Exactly. They're like, I would just take this and this, and I'm done. I'm like,
yeah. Exactly.
We can learn. I think that's the thing. People see it like sometimes maybe that they're above people with autism. It's like, no, we can all learn a lot from each other.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay. How can people work with you? Is it Instagram the best way to connect with you?
Instagram, you can reach out to me from my website, but Instagram is the easiest nowadays.
Yeah.
You can literally pop me a message and I have a chat with people first, because I think it's important to really get to know someone first and find out what they need, or like, can I actually help them? You know, I will never say to people, I'm 100% going to help you.
Yeah.
I had that for many, many years myself, where people, a physio would say to me all the time, you're going to be pain free in 6 months, all the time. And I'd say to them, you know, you're not the first person to tell me that. So I'm pretty sure that you won't. And they'd be like, 100%. Could never be 100%. But I will say to people, this is how I work. We'll have a chat about everything. So we have a chat, and then if you want to, then we book in for a consultation. And I work completely remotely at the moment. So you can basically do the whole consultation on Zoom.
Okay.
You don't need to worry about coming to me because I'm away. And so it's really easy. And if there's any tests that need to be done, I work with a company that ships all over Europe. So everything they will send a test right to your door. You can do the test, whatever it is, and then you send it off back to the company and I get the results. So it's really easy.
Yeah. I love that. Even as you were talking, I was just thinking of people that I'm going to talk to you about you, because there's just so many things that are coming up with like my friends and even previous guests. So yeah.
I think honestly, everything can be helped with nutrition. It's not to say that it's going to be a quick fix, but nothing in life is. And I think we've all got very used to a quick fix with medication, right? And I try to now. I don't take anything. I don't take any like paracetamol or anything like that. And that's not to say there's anything wrong with it, because people get desperate. People need that thing, right? But it's just about going, okay, let's take a step back for a second. What is this thing that I'm doing to my body? What is the knock-on effect? And I think, the gut and diet and nutrition and lifestyle as well. I look at lifestyle really importantly as well. Stress management is really, really key. But we talked earlier about like products that we're putting into our body. So looking at all of this together, it helps so many different things.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to finish the interview with the Woman Up wrap up, which is just 4 questions that I ask all my guests. So tell me something about you that no one really knows. So it can be something quirky, something funny, like something that you don't really talk about.
Oh my God. Because I'm such an open book. I
I
tell everyone.
She was on here talking about poo, so.
Oh my God. I'm such an open book. But let's just say that I can lick my nose.
Can you?
Yeah. And it's like something. That's like my party trick. I don't know if I should be proud of that, but it's a good party trick.
You know, some people that can curl their tongue.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, no,
I can't do that.
I don't have any special skills.
No, that's my next aim.
Okay, would you rather go back in time and give advice to your younger self, or meet your future self and hear what she has to say?
Neither. I think you need to stay in the present, because if you go back in time, you got to learn from the mistakes that you've made, or you got to learn from the pain that you've been through. So I wouldn't want to go back and give myself advice, because then it's not the path I've been on. And I don't want to go forward, because I'm excited to see the journey that I'm on, you know, and it would change it. And it's, you know, I'm not good at this as well. I need to practice this, but it is about being in the present as much as possible. So I know I've cheated.
No, I
with
love
my
that,
answer.
You're the first person who said that. I love it. If we had this conversation a year from now, what is one thing that you hope to have achieved by then?
I really hope that I am supporting more people and really just opening up people's minds to the impact that nutrition has. So I suppose I'd just like to be touching more lives.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, and then the last one is, if you had to describe this season of your life as a song, a book title, or a movie title, what would it be?
I'm really bad at knowing names of books or songs. Like my friend, people always laugh at me for this because I get the names wrong a lot, right? So, I mean, the only thing that's coming to mind is It's Raining Men. This is my mind. This is my mind, and that's not even relevant. Gimme. I don't know. Like, I literally can't even think of something. I'm trying to think of something that's like really, for me at the moment, I'm in a real place of like empowerment and like and living from my soul. Do you know any songs like that?
I'm trying to think.
Hey soul sister, that. Oh. There we go. We're going with that.
I love this though, because we met only like a few months ago.
Yeah.
And your energy is just like, I love it.
Yeah, I feel the same with you.
Because you just feel like everything you're doing is like from your core. And
Well,
I love that.
I feel the same, honestly, to be honest with you, because for me, anything that I see that's like women, I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
we've got to empower each other. So I love what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. That's it. Thank you so much. I've
Thank
loved having you
you.
on. I just think we need more people like you in this world.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, thank you for listening or watching. Don't forget, like, review, just do anything and everything. Share on your socials, because we really need to put the podcast out there and get more women listening to these types of conversations. So I will see you guys next week, and I love you guys. Bye. Okay, that's it for another episode of the Woman Up podcast. Thank you for spending time with us. It really means the world. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please take a second to follow the show and leave us a review. It really helps more women to find these conversations. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And also leave us a comment if anything in the episode resonated with you. We love, love, love to hear from you. Even better still, feel free to share this episode and tag us on your socials. Of course, I will see you right here next week for more real talk, sisterhood, and conversations that actually matter. Until then, keep going, keep growing, and woman up.